Hello, I am Dr. Vega, and I have always been a fan of power scaling in anime. I've watched lots of Screw Attack videos, and people like Seth the Programmer, Swag Kage, etc. I've always wanted to do my own power scaling videos, but since the manga and comic sphere already seem to be taken, I decided to do my own twist on it and choose two fictional characters from American movies and TV shows, compare their stats, and pit them against each other to see who would win in a battle to the death. On this episode, we have Louisiana college football legend Bobby Boucher versus the king of rock and roll, the incredible Joe Dirt. Both of these guys are pure-hearted, gentle souls, but we're going to see, under specific circumstances, who would win in a fight to the death. But before we decide the winner, we have to compare the two of them and see what their strengths, weaknesses, special abilities, known feats, and equipment are, to truly gauge who would win this epic battle to the death. Let's start with Joe Dirt. Joe was abandoned by his parents at a very young age, which forced him to fend for himself for most of his life. And although this would cause most people to carry a great bitterness in their hearts, Joe's heart is full of love and optimism. Doesn't let things keep him down for long, both mentally and physically. After reviewing the film, Joe's greatest strength is his extreme resiliency to constant physical pain and humiliation. The best example of this is Joe falls from a hot air balloon that is easily about 70 plus feet in the air if we compare Joe's height to the size of the structure. Joe free falls and crash lands on a small wooden structure and gets up like it's nothing. According to the World Health Organization, the chances of you surviving a 48 feet drop is about 50%, while an 84 feet fall is about a 90% chance of death. We can say that Joe's was somewhere in the middle. A fall from that height should have been about a 70% chance of death and close to a 100% chance of critical injury or hospitalization. But Joe is absolutely fine. He gets up within seconds and proceeds to apply and acquire a job at the oil rig that he just crashed into, which is an extremely physically demanding and dangerous job. Some other notable examples of his high HP and resiliency are when he easily survives being thrashed by a 14-foot, 900-pound gator, leaving the encounter relatively unscathed, only experiencing some dizziness and confusion for about 15 seconds. Although we do learn that Joe is not completely indestructible, impacts directly related to the top or back of his head do seem to have caused him the most damage, leaving him temporarily unconscious on 2 occasions, likely due to him not having the top of his skull, which he covers with his mullet wig, leaving a small part of his brain exposed.
I was born without the top of my skull, so my mom put this wig on me.
One major instance is when he jumps off the 4th Street Los Angeles Bridge, which is more than 160 feet high. He smashes his head under the bridge on the first bounce up from the bungee. This is the worst injury he gets in the whole film. An injury that would kill most men. Joe only stays unconscious for a few hours and wakes up with a new wig due to the mullet being damaged beyond repair. He wakes up fine and proceeds to street race against Kid Rock within a minute or so after waking up. Another time where he shows he's not completely indestructible is when he trips on a missile silo and bumps his head yet again, but this time against a rock. He is knocked out for a moment, but gets up right away, and then carries the heavy missile on his back moments after, showing that even though his head is vulnerable, his recovery speed is second to none. Besides resiliency, Joe has shown that he also has tremendous endurance and stamina as well. He can hitchhike for hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles with little to no breaks, and he also flew across multiple states on a hot air balloon for days with no food or water and be just fine. Joe Dirt is also crafty and resourceful. He saved a dog's scrotum by thinking of a warm water trick, and he also has great knowledge and skill driving fast cars. even owning his own 1967 Plymouth GTX Hemi convertible and being an expert on all types of fireworks, showing a mastery with the Roman candle, being accurate enough to shoot a bucket full of oil from a very far distance on his very first try. He also has a lot of confidence in himself, never backing down from a fight, even when there is a significant strength gap. He is scrappy and never gives up. In terms of raw power, his only notable feats is pulling a 200+ pound meteor out of a small crater with no equipment whatsoever, and also Spartan kicking a piece of furniture full of glass clown figurines and smashing it, which isn't very impressive, but it's all we have to go by. Now, enough about Sir Joseph Dirt. Let's discuss the greatest college football linebacker of all time, Bobby Boucher. Bobby Boucher, aka the Water Boy, was born in the Louisiana Bayou. He was raised by his mama and lives off a high-protein diet of alligator meat, boa constrictors, and other large reptiles. He also keeps himself well hydrated, being a genius when it comes to all kinds of water. But Bobby is also socially inept and carries a lot of hidden anger issues due to him being constantly teased and excessive sheltering by his mother. Yet overall, he is a very sweet young man who wouldn't hurt a fly, unless he channels his anger and pretends the fly is making fun of his mama. At that point, the fly is doomed to be tackled, drop-kicked, or powerbombed. Bobby Boucher's greatest strength is his raw physical strength and speed, breaking all sorts of college football records in his first few games as a defensive linebacker and averaging at least 20 sacks per game. Most of his tackles cause his victims to be temporarily incapacitated and unable to get up for at least several minutes from just one tackle. At one point, Bobby tackles his professor, and that one tackle causes his professor to be hospitalized, his arm broken, and both his eyes heavily bruised from the impact of being tackled by Bobby. The impact being mainly on his stomach, and although Bobby had only 5 feet of distance to accelerate during this tackle, the impact of this short, quick tackle caused terrible damage to the older professor. Another notable power feat is him picking up and powerbombing Meanie, a player from the opposing team, who is at least 250+ pounds of muscle, with little to no effort, as he is seen saying, "Captain Insano shows no mercy," without breaking a sweat or heavily breathing, revealing that he not only has tremendous power, but also high stamina as well. Bobby also shows great reaction speed and proves that he is a fast learner, catching an interception from the line and also throwing an extremely clutch, game-winning 43-yard touchdown pass to win the Bourbon Bowl on his very first throw attempt ever. Now, in terms of defense and resiliency, here's where we might see some weakness on Bobby. There are not a lot of moments where Bobby is on the receiving end of physical pain, but one particular moment in the film does reveal that Bobby can't take a hit as well as he can give them. During the Bourbon Bowl, Bobby is hit with a dirty play after the whistle and is tackled by one of the other team's players. This one tackle is enough to completely incapacitate Bobby, and he is completely unresponsive to the point where everyone thinks he might not be able to keep playing. It isn't until Bobby's girlfriend, Vicky Valancourt, pours some mystical medicine water that an Alaskan shaman gave to Bobby down Bobby's throat that Bobby finally gets up. This water is literally magic, as it is stated and shown that the water forever stays ice cold even without needing any refrigeration, and it also glows in the dark. It is implied that without this mystical water, Bobby might not have woken up in time to finish the game, showing that Bobby could be a glass cannon, showing very high offensive output but not having the same level of resiliency, his defense being more of a low tier, maybe low mid tier if we want to be generous. Some miscellaneous facts about Waterboy is that although receiving no formal education whatsoever, he passed all his college courses and even acquired his GED after just one night of studying, showing that he has the potential to be highly intelligent. His other weaknesses are that he is extremely naive, due to his mother's overprotectiveness over the years, and highly sensitive as well, becoming easily provoked when people make fun of him or his mama, becoming a raging bull of vengeance. Now that we've gone over both fighters and reviewed their strengths, weaknesses, and feats, we will try to break down who would win in certain scenarios using our epic battle simulator. Scenario 1, Steel Cage Match. No weapons allowed. So in this scenario, it's a straightforward brawl to the death. 2 men enter the cage, and only 1 man leaves. We know that Joe Dirt can take a lot of punishment, but he simply lacks the power in his fists to do any serious damage to Bobby. Bobby will simply overpower him, and we know both men have top-tier stamina, so it will simply be Bobby tackling and powerbombing Joe over and over until one of Joe Dirt's lungs collapse from having his ribcage annihilated from Bobby's fierce tackling spam.
Luckily, my neck broke my fall.
The only hope for Joe is that he gets lucky early on and Spartan kicks Bobby in the chin. Maybe he can get lucky and knock him out, since we know Bobby has pretty low HP and can't take much damage. A bit of a glass cannon, but the chances of that are slim, and I have Bobby winning at least 95 out of 100 fight simulations in the cage. Scenario 1 goes to Bobby Boucher, low difficulty. Scenario 2, Extreme Rules Street Fight in the middle of a busy town. Silvertown to be exact. So in this scenario, anything goes. Both characters are thrown in the middle of a busy town and are told they must kill the other or their loved one will be destroyed, giving both good-natured men some motivation. This fight will be very interesting, and I think is where Joe Dirt's street smarts, craftiness, and adaptability will shine. While Bobby is a bit of a one-trick charging bull, Joe Dirt is more likely to use the environment to get the W, very likely stealing a car and running Bobby over, or using some kind of makeshift weapon at his disposal. Avoiding Bobby's speed might not be easy, but Joe Dirt has proven many times he can adapt to a situation and use tools to get the job done. I see this fight starting off with Joe Dirt thinking he can take on Bobby fair and square, but once Bobby gets the first tackle, Joe's going to realize he can't overpower him without using some sort of trickery. We know Joe has some top tier level health, as long as it isn't a direct impact to the top of his head. So even if Bobby gets a few tackles on Joe, Joe's health should still be pretty high. The guy has survived and gotten up quickly from much, much worse. At some point, Joe Dirt will get his hands on either a vehicle or some kind of melee weapon, or even a Roman candle, and he will defeat Bobby. Vicky Valancourt will not be present to give Bobby the Alaskan shaman water this time. So I have Joe Dirt winning this one at least 75 out of 100 simulations. Mid to high difficulty. I think initially Bobby will cause some damage to Joe, but Joe is just too resilient. He will find a way to create some distance at some point and weasel his way to a victory, using some sort of weapon at his disposal. I do think Bobby can pull out a victory though by maybe stealing the weapon from Joe, but due to Bobby's low HP and straight line charging approach, I think he will lose much more than he would win in this scenario. So I give scenario 2 to Joe Dirt. Scenario 3. Both men are given a fully loaded hunting rifle and are thrown into the Louisiana swamp. So this one is dark. Both men will be given a hunting rifle and thrown in a Hunger Games-like scenario, or a Forest of Death type, which they each start on opposite sides of a massive, massive swamp and must kill each other to get out alive. Finding each other is going to be the tough part. In this scenario, both men have an advantage though. Bobby knows the terrain and has a lot of experience in the swamps of Louisiana, and Joe gets to start off with a weapon, which as we now know is his only hope of defeating Bobby, since he will never win in a hand-to-hand scenario. I have this one being the closest. I think if Bobby plays his cards right and gets real close, he might be able to pull off the W. We have seen that he can adapt on the fly and throw an incredible game-winning pass after never once being shown throwing a football. But Joe has shown he is more creative and adaptable, and has even shown great accuracy with long-range weapons, such as when he used the Roman candle from a long distance and hit the mark on the first try. I have the fight going something like this. Bobby has never held a gun, but knows what his mission is. But he can't help but feel a little nervous. His best hope is to charge in close and disarm Joe Dirt and get a shot off from close range. But he has to be careful, as he knows the swamp is full of danger. Joe is confident. He charges into the swamp with reckless abandon, thinking he has this in the bag. Bobby, on the other hand, is cautious and takes his sweet time traversing the terrain looking for his prey. Joe Dirt continues down his warpath full of confidence when suddenly he slips on some gator poop. Joe has had bad luck with feces in the past, and it seems he still does. The poop was fresh and caused a nearby gator to hear Joe and attack him. The gator grabs Joe by the leg and does a death roll. A normal man would have had his leg completely torn off, but for Joe, it is merely a strained calf due to his high resiliency. Joe managed to escape the gator jaws and fires his gun at the green beast. The loud bang causes Bobby to run in the direction of the shot. Bobby knows the terrain well and finds the best route. Joe realizes his position is compromised, and with his leg injury, he decides to play the waiting game and hides inside a mossy old tree. Soon enough, Bobby can be heard approaching in the not-so-far distance. It is here where Joe must make a critical decision. Should he aim down his sights and start shooting from a distance once he catches a glimpse of Bobby? Or should he wait for Bobby to get real close and try to shoot him in the back? We have ran this scenario 100 different times in our simulation generator and have determined that whenever Joe started shooting from a distance, he would leave Bobby with little to no chance of winning, as Bobby could not survive a single gunshot wound. All it takes is one for poor Bobby to be dropped like a pig. But whenever Joe Dirt decided to play it cautiously and wait for Bobby to get close, Joe would accidentally give away his position due to some outside factors such as a second gator grabbing him or a snake biting him, causing him to give up his position and being charged at by Bobby and getting shot straight in the face. Technically, Joe could potentially survive getting shot in the face and then getting a shot off on Bobby. It happened in a few simulations, but Bobby up close is just too explosive and fast. His blitz speed at short range is second to none. So this one honestly could be a tie, but I will give it to Joe due to him having better accuracy and being craftier with tools, and Joe being able to take a few shots without dying, while Bobby would be dead after just one. Bobby's only hope would be to disarm Joe by getting real close, but he would be relying heavily on a lot of bad luck for Joe to give away his position. So I have Joe winning scenario 3 at least 60% of the time. It will be a highly difficult fight though. Scenario 3 goes to Joe Dirt. In conclusion, Joe Dirt wins most scenarios where he has access to weapons and his street smarts. And Bobby wins any straightforward hand-to-hand only brawl. Bobby's raw speed and power is simply too much for Joe to sustain in a fair fight. But with some trickery and the right tools, Joe can get the job done by taking advantage of Bobby's low pain tolerance. I hope you guys liked this video. I worked really hard on it, and if you enjoyed it and would like to see more battles to the death with fictional movie characters, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Did you agree with today's results? Let me know in the comments, and also drop some names of who you would like to see on the next Dr. Vega's Epic Battle Simulator.